Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today with some friends for the Friday conversation. Just here to shoot the breeze, as you normally do. Nick, do you want to start us off with some introductions?
Sure. My name is Nick Borrelli. I have a science fiction fantasy book blog called Out of This World SFF. I review books, do author interviews, cover reveals. Lots of self-pub and indie are on there. So if you like that kind of stuff, you'll find a lot of content with that stuff on there. But yep, it's my little slice of heaven.
Nice. Mr. Fletcher?
Oh, that's not me. I'm just in his house. Ignore the huge poster behind me. Yeah, hi. I'm Michael R. Fletcher, author of books and stuff and things
And more stuff.
and metal.
That's right. Jolien?
Hi everyone. So I'm Jolien. I have a small booktube channel called Jolien Reads. It's been a while since I've been on one of these Friday conversations, but love to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back. And Mark?
Hey, I'm Mark. I run Slowly Read, which is really just another booktube channel, but focuses a lot more on the darker themed books, which is I like to call the dark and the dastardly.
Yeah, when I first started watching YouTube or BookTube, I didn't even know that books like that existed until watching Mark's channel. So it was a big eye opener. I didn't know that those, when I thought of fantasy, I thought of the traditional fan. I know that there was other books like that. So good stuff. So Nick, tell us about your blog. So how long have you been doing it?
Started the blog about 3 years ago. Before then, I was reviewing for a couple of different sites. I reviewed for Fantasy Book Review for a while, and another site called Fresh Fiction. And I just my schedule was just all messed up, and I was missing deadlines, and I just didn't want to. I wanted to have something that I could follow my own schedule on. So I started the blog, and it started out really small and just took off, and I'm just having the time of my life. I love it. People are supporting it. It's been really fun. And, about 3 years. So, got over 100,000 page views. So,
Wow.
I just couldn't be happier with where the blog is right now. And I get to, review at my own pace, post at my own pace. And it's just been such a great thing for me.
How many review requests do you get a month?
Oh gosh. It's funny. I get lots of Twitter DMs, which we don't like. And no matter how much we say we don't like it, I seem to still get them. But yeah, I'd say my form, which you're supposed to use, the form on my website, I get through that. I probably get a month, roughly about 25 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, around there.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm a one-person blog, so I'm not like FanFi Addict where they have like 100 people. Like it's just me.
Yeah.
So I have to turn people down, unfortunately, because I can't keep up with that kind of volume.
Mm-hmm. But you do take a lot of requests, or you just read whatever you want?
I basically I have sort of like a two-pronged thing. I whatever I see on NetGalley that I love that is from an author that I'm a big fan of, I will request, and then I have sort of like 50% that I take requests. But I mean, if it's something that I look up and I kind of think that I'm not going to be into, I'll pass on it. But it all depends, and I'll also be approached by authors on Twitter and stuff, authors that I have a relationship with already. Like they'll DM me and say, hey, I have this early, I have an arc. You wanna read it and blah blah blah. And yeah, most of the time, yeah. I mean, I'll jump on that, especially if it's somebody I'm a big fan of, like Mike Fletcher. Yeah, I'll jump on that. But I try to keep it sort of manageable. And if I have like about 10 to 12 that are waiting in the wings, I shut it down. And shut down for review requests after that.
I like Michael's approach to reviewing. Is like, hey, if you get to it, great. If you don't, no stress.
He's
kind
great,
of,
isn't he?
I think as an author, you have to approach it like that. I mean, like, I'm just going to take a wild guess here. Most of the bloggers aren't making money doing this. It's for fun. It's a hobby. It's
I
a
wish.
huge scam to get free books. But you know, like, but it's not about, you know, it's not about, you're not getting paid most likely, or if you are, I'm going to start blogging.
I'm doing it wrong if
So,
they are.
like,
Yeah.
you're basically, you guys are doing, as authors, like, a huge favor. Like, the difference, if a book lands well with any, or hopefully all of you, you know, like, you see it in your sales, like, it's noticeable. And you know, to then be demanding, you know, about that, like, oh shit, have you reviewed my book yet? It's like, no, fuck. You basically, I mean, kind of from day one, I was like, you know, I really want people to review this stuff, so to put it in, you know, people's eyes. But you can't expect anything. You have to send stuff out and say, like, if you get to it like a year from now, awesome. You know, a review that lands 3 years later is still amazing. It's still going to move some books. It's going to, especially with an older book, 3 years later, it's like, oh yeah, that series, forgotten about that. I remember hearing about that years ago. You know, it still has an impact. So, you know, any author who is pushy about that shit is not doing themselves a favor.
Yeah. Jolien and Mark, have you had any weird interactions with authors with review requests?
To be honest, no. But I don't get that many. I get a couple on my Gmail account, but I think that even in my small my description on YouTube, I say that I don't take requests. So people know that they shouldn't ask me. I don't read enough to read books that I normally wouldn't buy myself. So I have a physical TBR that I'm not going to get to anytime soon. That's enough for me.
What about you, Mark? Anything weird ever happen? Any weird requests?
I wish. No. No, you know, well, I definitely get a lot of requests. I get like too many. And like Nick, I do it by myself. I don't have anybody else doing any, besides like running my Discord, but that's, you know, just like kind of like the side thing from my channel. But as far as my channel, the books I review, all that stuff, it's just me. So I only got so much time, you know what I mean? And I'm already trying to do some other things as well for myself. So it's impossible for me to review every request, like, especially at this point. Like when I started, I didn't really know how to say no. I just it seemed like the right thing to do for them. For me, it was like, shit, I'm nobody, you know what I mean? Like, to get an arc, regardless of what it is, it's just seemed like it would be something to talk about, you know? And that was the direction I took. Luckily, all the arcs I've read, I mean, I think maybe one or two I was kind of lukewarm on, but I never had one there I was like, God damn this book, you know, like this thing sucks, you know? So no one ever wasted my time. I will say it is funny though, like the angle that some try to take. Like, they'll be like, hey, I saw your, you know, I love your channel, and be like, I think that my book will be great for you. And then they describe it, and it's like I'm like, have you watched my channel?
Nothing like
there's no way you could watch my channel and think that this was a good idea to pitch me. Like, you're insane. But I do love the balls on you. But yeah, I mean, one way or another, I when you're trying to put something out yourself, it's like, man, you put your heart and soul into it, you know, so that I can understand where you just want something to happen. You know, that patience might not be so easy to practice, because goddamn, you just spent all this time doing this, then all the time editing it, like getting it beta read or whatever, you know, and it's finally out there. So I think, you know, Clayton and Mike might have talked about this in that one discussion we had, but it's like kind of anticlimactic. The book's out there and you're like, what the fuck?
Am I famous now? I published a book. Am I done?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough. And everybody's different. I've had some that were a little bit more pushier than others, but I don't think I've had anybody step out of the line. And I don't know if that's just because they know better or not. Like, I don't know. Some people think I'm intimidating or whatever, but I'm a big old pussycat. But at the same time, I'm also not afraid to be like, look, motherfucker, enough.
Anything weird ever happened with you, Nick? With any weird interactions?
I mean, I just get, I mean, yeah, a lot like Mark. I get just these weird, bizarre emails that, yeah, like I have a science fiction and fantasy book log, and then they want me to review, like, I don't know, just like a travel book or something. You know, it's just, and a lot of it's just form stuff. It's like they don't even include my name, and it's just, you know, almost like to whomever may concern, and they just, it's kind of annoying. And yeah, I get DMs on Twitter a lot, and I just ignore those at this point. I used to respond to them, and now I'm just like, I just ignore it. You know, it just gets kind of annoying. But yeah, just nothing like where it was ever like, you know, guy was cursing at me because I didn't want to read his book. But I've seen those, by the way. Other people have gotten those, but not me, thankfully. But yeah, just weird stuff where it's like, oh, you obviously have just sent out 1,000 of these, and I was included in that, that blast.
Yeah, I think like 95% of the time, authors are really understanding, and they know that reviewers are busy. So there's just a very small portion that kind of don't take that into consideration. But I kind of understand you wanting to get the word out. So I'm sure it's frustrating to make those connections.
Yeah, you need to be glacially patient. You know, you're sort of like, yeah, 10 years from now, something might happen. Who knows? I'm going to write 10 more books in the meantime, just for the fuck of it.
There's a guilt factor also that's just, oh my God, as far as like, I mean, being that one person blogger, and it always seems like all the good books just get released like within 5 days of each other. And then you want to read 10 books at once, and you take them on, and it's just like, okay, I got to read faster because, you know, I got to get to this book and then get to the next one and get to the next one. And it's just, there's a guilt factor there. And it's just, I do feel guilty that I can't get to those books in a timely fashion. And so whenever, you know, I'm on Twitter and I see like maybe like an author likes something that I posted, and I know that he knows that he sent me a book, and I'm like, is that a passive aggressive thing to be like, hey, nudging me like, hey, when are you going to read and review my book? See, this is how I think, right? It's like, it's this, it's weird. But I'm like, oh, are they doing that to be like, or, you know, it's just, yeah. And I just feel so guilty sometimes, but I try my best. I really do. I got 2 kids. I mean, a full-time job. It's hard. It's hard. I try.
Yeah. Do you get review requests, Mike, from other authors? Do they ask you for
Oh, yeah.
blurbs and stuff?
Yeah, fairly often. I accept almost none of them unless I like know the author and really like them and their books. I don't read a lot. I just don't have time. You know, anytime I pick up a book, I start feeling guilty that I'm not writing a book, and then it sours my enjoyment of it. And then I can't turn off writer brain. So I read somebody's book and I'm like, I'm editing it as I read. I'm like, man, your prose is shit, dude. Yeah, and that's not cool. It doesn't mean the prose is actually bad. It just means he's not writing like I write. And like, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different, you know. But anyway, yeah. So occasionally, and if I really like them and I really like the book, like Clayton's Blackthorn, like I beta read that and blurbed it because I love Clayton, and the book is fucking awesome.
It is.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely hard to keep up.
I don't get any weird ones. People occasionally get a little pissy when I'm like, yeah, sorry, I don't have time. I don't know. I'm not sure what they think my life is like. I don't know.
There's some comments. Austin is here. Hello, friends. Been too long since I caught one of these live. Hope you're all having a great day. And Nick is wondering, is Dirk trying to find his pants?
Yeah, probably.
That was our assumption. That's what we're thinking. Yeah.
That joke is 5 or 6 years old now.
Hmm.
And that's going back a ways. That's one of those like it never dies jokes.
I mean,
Where did that come from?
Crap, some Facebook interaction. Oh crap, I remember. So I decided that Dirk was pretending to be an English gentleman of some nobility, and I went onto Facebook and started proclaiming the lie, telling everyone that Dirk was in fact not actually an English gentleman. He helped me out. He posted a bunch of pictures of himself with a pipe and a tweed jacket to prove me wrong. And it really escalated from there. And then at some point he was at crap, what's that convention in BristolCon in the UK? And he was hanging out with Anna Smith Spark and some other people. And when he got back to the States afterwards, he realized he'd lost a pair of pants. Like it had disappeared from his luggage and he has no idea where it was. And Anna Smith Spark came on and went, I stole them for Mike. Mike has your pants now. And it just escalated from there. And 5 years later, people are still talking about his pants.
it's relentless.
It is.
Always. It's
And
crazy.
it was such an innocent joke. And it just spiraled. I was just bored one day and didn't feel like writing. And I was like, I'm going to pretend Dirk's not British.
Spectre. Hey guys, how's your day going? And bad as rad. I was reading Talia until I saw this notification. Yeah, Talia's on my shelf. I need to get to that one. Hope the reading slump is doing better. Cool Gamer is here. Kehad, hello everyone. And Austin is agreeing with Michael with your approach to arcs. And Shelf Center is here. I learned to simply tell people I will accept and feature books in book hauls, but I don't promise to review anymore because otherwise my TBR gets dictated by others and that's not healthy for me. Yeah, this is and Jeremiah's here. This is an interesting point. Jeremiah says, this is why I don't do booktube myself. I think if you really want to start a booktube channel and save yourself a lot of money, you could exclusively review arcs that you get for free and you can stay busy. You'd never have a spare moment. Like you could just do that and not spend a dime. So that's an option.
Yeah, true. But I also don't know if that's viable for everyone. I know for me personally, I wouldn't enjoy reading anymore if I would do that. So that's why I have chosen myself that I'm just not going to accept arcs. I have one arc this year and I'm already behind. And that's a book that I was going to buy myself. So I'm just really not made for that.
Yeah, it's that balance of reading what you want versus reading what you commit to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just a different philosophy. I mean, for me, it works well because my website, I mostly review new or soon to be released titles. So, they're all in NetGalley pretty much. So that's where I get my stuff. I can't remember the last time I did a book haul, and bought stuff. I mean, I most of my TBR is stuff that I've gotten as arcs from either NetGalley or authors.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about ebooks rather than print? I've been for myself, I hate ebooks. I've just realized it. I've been guest judging this SPFBO, with Fantasy Book Critic, right? And so I'm getting all these ebooks to read, and I hate it. For the finalists, when we hit the 10 finalists, I'm just gonna buy them all in paperbacks so I can enjoy them. It's somehow, and I don't know if it's because I'm old, the ebook experience lessens it for me. It's like it cheapens the book.
The thing I don't like about ebooks is, I mean, a physical book, I like the fact that you can see your progress. It's almost like, I mean, you can see it on an ebook too. It tells you the percentage, but it's still like a flat thing. And whereas with a book, you put the bookmark in and you put it down and you go, wow, I really read a lot. You could see it. And I just like that aspect of it. You feel like you've made progress when you're reading a physical book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally really liked reading from my e-reader, but then I have the physical book next to me to track the progress. So it's like the best of both worlds. But I love an e-reader just because I have very weak wrists. So I hate reading from a physical book. And I've actually noticed that in the past I've DNF'd books just because my physical enjoyment wasn't there. So now that I pick them back up with an e-reader, I'm actually liking it more.
What about you, Mark? What do you prefer? Or what do you feel about digital?
Well, I mean, like I love a paperback, like like full-size paperback book. I'm not a real big fan of hardcovers, except for that they're beautiful. Hardcovers to me are like set pieces or something, you know. I don't really actually read too many hardcover books, but I do love paperback. And I come from the fucking the time where we didn't have shit like e-readers, so it was like that's so very ingrained in me. And I was very much like, like Mike, where it was like, just even the thought of using an e-reader just kind of disturbed me. I think I was really on a fence, but becoming a booktuber, it gets really expensive really quick. So I wanted to do some ARCs. I remember, Mike, you had an ARC coming, and I wanted to get an e-reader just so I could get the ARC on there. And I was really blown away, actually, like with how easy it was for me to kind of make the switch. I still go back and forth between, like, if I have the paperback, like I'll read the paperback. But I have no problem reading off my Kindle. I really like that I can make the font bigger, because I'm just like, I can't fucking, a lot of times, one of my biggest pet peeves is if I get a book and I have to strain to see the fucking words. I'm like, dude, I love The Broken Empire. It's like fucking, so near and dear to my heart, but I fucking hate those mass market paperbacks. The fucking letters are so small. I just fucking hate it. But yeah, so that's one thing that made the Kindle so awesome. I was just like, whoop, make that thing as big as Grandpa needs. Let me get a look at this guy. But I swear it really sped things up for me though too. I noticed my reading speed increased without me like losing the comprehension of the story. I wasn't like flying through. I just noticed it. I seemed to digest it quicker when I could see it better. And that's, I think, the main thing that made me kind of fall in love with my Kindle. So now, yeah, I have no issue either or. I do like the prospect of being able to find a book on my Kindle. Like some books, if they're older, they're really hard to find. But you can get it really easy on Kindle. And that I really like, as well as obviously being cheap. They're very cheap.
Yes.
And it's easy also as well. Just kind of going back to the ARCs. When I first started like getting ARCs, I remember I would like kind of tell the author, I was like, look, you got to send me a physical copy because I won't do an ebook, And then now, like late, this was in the early deal. Now I feel bad for doing that to a lot of these guys because I realize how much more money that's on them, And so I like the idea of making it a little easier and cheaper on the author as well, because God knows that they're probably already spending fucking shit tons of money to get their book out in the first place. So
yeah, I feel the same. I feel really bad.
There's a lot of things I do like about the Kindle that. Obviously paperback got the feel, it got the smell and the look, it's so good. But there are a lot of conveniences and just things that are nice for both sides of the spectrum there.
Yeah, shipping can be expensive, especially, like from Canada to the US or
international shipping can be crazy, and you start getting books sent to you from the UK or whatever, and I'm like, fuck, I'm a dick.
Yeah, it's getting it. And I do feel bad too about physical ARCs, because it's like, who am I to be I need a real book in my hands. But I do prefer the physical book. But it's nice to have the Kindle option, just to take it with you, just when you're throwing in your pocket and you're going somewhere and have a few minutes to read here and there. So and there's a ton of free books all the time. I mean, there's tons of books that you can grab for $1 for free a certain amount of time. So lots of deals to be had too.
Yep.
But Tori Talks is here. Hey guys. Hey Tori.
Hey.
Jeremiah Fletcher needs to do a brutally honest reviews for fun, which would be awesome.
No. I'm really bad, like brutally bad. I am so horrendously brutal. Crystal Matar asked me to critique her next book for her. And so every morning while I'm having my morning coffee, I read Brick and Bone, and I just constantly text her live reports on what's going on. It's working. It's great. But like, I slaughter books. I'm such a bitch. I'm just so fucking picky. Like, extra wasted words, meandering prose. And this is actually, I think, part of why I don't like ebooks. I was reading something for SPFBO, and I'm like, God damn, the word eyes keeps popping up. Like, this seems like I'm reading like, oh, her dark eyes, his dark eyes. She had dark eyes over and over. And I'm like, all right, how many times does the word eyes appear in this book? And it's like 900 times in 375 pages. And I'm like, that's a lot. But in a paperback, I couldn't have done that. And I would not have bothered to count. And is that actually useful information? Probably not. But because I could do that, I did. And it's like I'm an asshole to myself.
Is that like was that break like rules in the author circles if you did brutally honest reviews of other books? Is that like one of those unspoken things you just don't do?
Yeah, I mean it's just mean. Like, as an author, you know how much work goes into a book. I mean, even a shitty book, and I have written shitty books. It's like, it's a year of work. It's editing. You pour your heart into it. It's so much hard work, and then to have somebody come along and just crap on it, like, I wouldn't want someone to do that to me, and I couldn't do it to someone else.
How does it feel, Mark, now that you're writing a book, from your reviewing, the stance you took in reviewing? How has that changed your process of writing?
This is one thing I was really amazed with when I first started writing, how someone that read so much could know so little about fucking writing. Like, how is it that I spend so much of my life looking upon this shit and I can't do it? Really, really, really quick. I like, one thing that writing did for me was really quickly, it filled me with a respect for people who write. And even if it's not that good, because the fact is, even stringing together some words that aren't that good, but yet are coherent and make sense, is a task. It's crazy. I'll literally be like, all I need is just this little thing to happen. Why can't I fucking make it happen? And a lot of times just the simplest bit of prose can be pretty taxing, or I guess it all depends on the writer. I come from more of like, the only writing I ever did was like songwriting or poetry. So there's that kind of, I see myself taking this approach a lot of times, where like some people might appreciate it, and then there's other people are gonna be like, what the fuck, man, you used like 10 words where you only needed to use 4. I don't know. I go all over the place now. I wish maybe I would have just stuck to one thing, because it's nuts. I don't know. It's one thing. Like I said, like, I have a huge respect now for people that write. But then now I also notice this. I was already a big time mood reader. But now I feel like not only am I moody, I'm like even more picky about what I'm reading, because I notice like either I can meander because I'm thinking about my own fucking book, or their shit starts rubbing off on me. And I'm writing and I'm like, what the fuck? This doesn't even fit what I just wrote yesterday. This is like what I just read in that book. God damn it. Yeah. Delete.
Anna Smith Spark does that to me. If I read anything she's written, oh God, it just twists. I go back to my own stuff and I'm trying to write like Empires of Dust. It's like, come on, stop. And it's just like, I can't do it like she does.
Yeah. And that's a big thing for me. So I have noticed like the books I've been picking up, are probably, this is actually probably the most like structured reading I've done, and just because I'm being picky on the style of prose and like the tense that the story's being told in and all that, just trying to kind of keep things in the same lane that I'm writing in, sort of. Though everybody that I'm reading is a million times better than me.
Here he goes.
Yeah, there he goes. So Jeremiah had a question. So British people don't wear pants?
Apparently not. At least not British nobility.
Yeah. Zachary's here. I started reading Beyond Redemption the other day and wanted to say that I've been really enjoying it.
Oh, that does not bode well for your sanity.
Yeah. How does that make you feel, Mike, when people say that they're reading one of your books, even if it's not a newer book, it's an older book?
Yeah, it's always weird. I mean, like, I get that I wrote books and should probably expect people to read them by this point, but I still kind of don't. I mean, Beyond Redemption, like, I had no other books really. 88 was my first book. I think 30 copies sold. So nobody heard of me. When I wrote Beyond Redemption, I didn't have an agent. There was no expectation of it ever getting published. And it's still weird. I don't expect it. Like, I know it happens on a sort of like philosophical level, but it is still very strange to me. And, you get, mail and stuff about, people's experiences, and it is still really cool.
Jeremiah says, we all know how Michael Vaughn feels about his ebooks based on his book D-Haul video. I prefer physical, plus you own any book. If you own any book, you don't own it. You own the right to read it on a platform. Daniel's here. I feel the same sense with the experience being cheapened with an ebook. I honestly don't feel like I really own the book if it's just an ebook, but I can read ebooks faster.
Yeah, I want to own the print copy, even if it's a bad book. And the weird thing is, I probably won't give it away or sell it. It'll still just go on my shelf, and with all of the other books. But I want to keep them, and especially if it's a good book.
Do you keep all of your books? Oh, Jolien, you're muted. Are you muted? I think you might be muted. Okay. Nick, do you keep all of your books, or do you?
So yeah, I mean, if I kept all my books, there would be no room in my house. I would be tripping over them. I'd be like, trying to get to the kitchen and like pushing books like to the side. I keep the ones that I really love, and the ones that are really great reads that I know I'm going to reread. Ones like with awesome covers, like the ones that the ones that Felix does. Obviously, I'm going to keep those because he's a great cover artist. But yeah, I mean, a lot of them. I mean, as long as they're not, arcs, the stuff I buy that I've read, I'll maybe donate it to a library or, give it to friends and stuff. I usually keep all the arcs just because, I don't know. I just feel this like obligation. They say don't sell them or give them away or stuff like that. So I don't really feel good doing that, since it's an author who really trusts you with, with their book. And I mean, it's weird because some authors are cool with it and they're like, yeah, spread it around to as many people as possible. And then some authors are like, no, I gave you that arc. Like, so it's a tough call to know what to do.
Yeah. I think with the traditionally published stuff, they really do frown upon you like giving them out and lending them and stuff. And if they find out, there's a chance you might not be getting arcs anymore. Personally, and not talking traditional stuff, with my books, like once you've got it, you do whatever you want with it. It's yours. And I would guess that's probably true for most. Yeah, whatever. You bought the book, it's yours. Go nuts.
I bought like a cord of broken knives on Amazon, and it got to my house and it was an arc.
Really?
Yeah, because I think I bought like a used copy or something like that. So that's what whoever I was like, oh god. I thought it was kind of cool, honestly, but I remember saying something, and a bunch of people were like, "Oh my god, it's so fucked up," and I was like, "Oh shit, what did I just walk into?"
That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat that you got an arc of that. That's a great series to have an arc of.
Yeah.
Next year, I can't read physical books anymore, but I do enjoy looking at a big bookshelf. It's nice until you have to move, I'm guessing. That's what I'm...
Yeah. I'm never moving again. I'm done.
Yeah,
what's
I just moved, and I'll tell you, one of the biggest bitches was moving all those books. It was insane. When we first got here, it took like 2 or 3 days for me to even be able to get the books inside. I had so many, like, it was fucking crazy.
Voices from the Mausoleum is here. Happy Friday, Angel. Hope you're doing good. I enjoy cover art too much to switch to an ebook exclusively, and it says Kindle Unlimited is like having a library at home. There's a lot of stuff on Kindle Unlimited. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like actually trying to weed through that and find the good stuff. I'm guessing majority of it is published by deranged hacks like me.
Do you use Kindle Unlimited, Nick? Do you ever?
Yeah, oh yeah. Absolutely. I think it's the best value, honestly, that to pay like $10 a month or whatever it is now. It's not, can't be more than that, but and to be able to like have 10 books on your Kindle at all times and just rotate, it's like, to me, I mean, it's great. And self-pub and indie, I mean, is the quality is just so good, and it's just, you know, like I said, it's like a smorgasbord. You know, it's like 50 pages of like great books, and you have to figure out, you know, which ones you want to download. And so, yeah, I absolutely, I swear by it. I think it's great. I mean, I know some people can't afford it, but if you can afford it, it's a great value. I mean, you can read a lot of great books, and, you know, I love it.
What about you, Mark? Do you use Kindle Unlimited?
No, I don't even really necessarily know what it is. Like, is it like a thing you pay for through Kindle and they just like open up a fucking a library of books for you? They're like, hey, check it out. Since you paid us this money, you can read any of these.
Yeah, it's like an Amazon subscription, and basically they designate whatever books as Kindle Unlimited books. And those books you can download for free and keep them forever if you want.
Oh shit, you can keep them, huh?
Yeah, you get to keep 10 at a time. You get to borrow 10 at a time. You can keep them on your Kindle for as long as you want, as long as you don't go over the 10.
I got you. So you just keep rotating your 10 out. Like,
yeah, so once you read one, you just pop another one in that place.
Gotcha.
Yep.
That's cool. I mean, for me, I don't know. I guess I'm so moody and picky. Like, so it's like, I feel like if I do stuff like that, I'm always like, at first I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then after just like a couple months, I'm like, there's nothing. It's like cable TV or something.
Yes.
Like, why do I have 500 channels? And I don't want to watch any of them. Like, man, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it might be completely different. I've never actually tried it, so I can't judge it, but I haven't gotten into it because, I mean, basically I already have too many books that I want to get to. I'm not like, by the time they put fucking dirt on me, there will still be books that I wanted to read that I never got to. So like, I don't necessarily need more options.
Good point.
But it's not bad to have them. You know what I mean? I definitely wouldn't condemn, you know, them giving you more. You know, more is good. We all want more. But yeah, I just can't handle it. I got too much shit as it is. I'm trying to prioritize like stuff, and I mean, there's a bunch of classic stuff I want to get to still too. You know, shit that's fucking 40 plus years old that still knocking on my door. I've been slowly creeping through the Elric series, and
Nice.
Goddamn, I'm falling in love with that guy.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
But that's one thing is like those books are really easy to get on Kindle. Maybe not so easy to get the old, you know, Elric books or whatever. They probably they just put out omnibuses though, so they're probably actually pretty easy to get a hold of now. I didn't think about the whole like you don't own the book. It's so funny I didn't think about it with books because I think about it with video games. I'm like, I don't want to buy the digital. I don't want to download it digitally. I'm like, I don't own the fucking thing. You know what happens? You know, this is that. I also, the other thing I guess I forgot to mention is like your book, your paperback's not going to go out of batteries. It's not going to die on you.
It's true.
That's a good point.
How is Kindle Unlimited for authors? Mike, is it worth it to use it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say yes. So all of my books are on Kindle Unlimited. It's been years since I did the math. When I first started doing it, I would make about the same from a complete, like, front to back page, read of the book from KU as I would from an ebook sale. And I was like, all right, cool. It was about the same. I don't know if it still is. But it's like, it's another market, and, it's a sizable chunk of my Amazon income every month. So to me, I would say, yeah, it's totally worth it.
Welcome back, Jolien. Did you get your microphone?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is the one that I had just right now. It's the gaming headset of my husband. And I asked him, did you charge it? And he said he did. He didn't. So now I just woke him up to ask if everything is okay. He was not in a good mood, but I'm happy it works.
His fault for not charging it.
I agree.
What were you saying before your battery died?
No, I was just wondering, because a lot of people say that it diminishes their experience when they have an ebook because they feel like they don't own it. But do they then feel the same if they go to a library and have then the physical book, but they also don't own it?
That's a really good point, because honestly, like when I first started getting into reading, that's how I did it. I went to the library and got books. Like, and I remember when I started getting into the Star Wars books, it was awful because it was like the library didn't have like all the books in order. So you like read them all over the fucking place. But it didn't matter because you could go to the library and get books, read,
Yeah, exactly.
You don't own those.
And there's even digital libraries. What is it, Libby, or there's a few apps you can get, check books out. Pretty convenient. Emma's here. What's up, everyone? I got a really good deal on a hardcover of The Darkness That Comes Before, and had that Arabic-looking script falling in the background. Super pumped to read. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's a gem, man. Hold on to that thing.
Yeah.
I would love to have one of those. Yeah, I have all paperbacks, and I still can't even get a matching series or a set because just how hard it is to find those books. I got all of them, all of the books except for like the sixth of the 7 books is like published by Orbit, where the rest are all published by Overlook. And yeah, it's not easy getting your hands on some of those books. That's why I tell a lot of people that want to get into Baker, definitely don't be discouraged by not being able to find the books. Go to Kindle. If you really want to read it, but go to Kindle.
Yeah. Mark put that series on my radar. Yeah, that's a good find. Was it the 3rd book in the 2nd series? That's the one that's taller.
Yeah, that's the one. The Great Ordeal is it's a great ordeal to get your fucking hands on that. It's aptly named.
Are you a Baker fan, Nick?
I actually only read the first trilogy, and yeah, I mean, it's just on another level. Honestly, there's so much going on. The whole history behind it is cool. It's just one of those series, and I don't get a lot of this, so it requires your concentration and it requires your full attention, because there's so many little things that if you miss it, down the road, you just have to really pay attention to it. And so I would say, yeah, I recommend that series a lot. There are very few like it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's very dense. So
it's dense. That's a great way.
It's very dense, and it's weird because that's what I guess surprised me so much about, like, Baker really made me contradict myself a lot because I was like, I don't like dense shit, you know, and I don't like this and I don't like that. And then I read Baker and I was like, why the fuck do I like all this?
Yeah,
Everything.
it's a lot like Gene Wolfe in that respect. And I mean, and you'll find yourself like, it's a series where you'll go online and just go on every wiki page you can find just because you want to find out more about it. You know, it's like you crave more. You're like, what's in the book isn't enough. I need to know what's behind like this, or who these people are and what happened with the craft or whatever. It's like, it's just so cool. It's a great series.
Mm-hmm. I just finished The Warrior Prophet yesterday, and had just before this, we had a 2-hour stream or a podcast with talking about it. Yeah, it's nuts.
Is that your first time reading it?
It's my first time reading. I had read The Darkness That Comes Before. I reread that one, and then I just finished The Warrior Prophet. So we're taking a 2-week break, and then we're doing Thousand Full Thought.
Yeah, my hat's off to you guys for taking taking it slow, and I love to see your book all lit up like that with fucking markers.
I ran out of them. I had to get more green because I didn't want them.
See, I was like, when I got into Baker, I had just recently gotten to this point with my reviewing where I was like, I'm not taking any more notes. I'm like, whatever sticks in my head is what should be reviewed because that's like what stands out. And then I started getting into Baker, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to immediately do spoiler videos and get everything in my head onto a video immediately because I don't know what the fuck. Like, it would have been smarter for me to highlight some stuff, honestly, and take my time. But I burned through that stuff the first time. I just couldn't get enough. The second read really helped me put some things together. It's crazy to think of a 7-book chonking series, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, I'm going to reread it. Like, fuck.
Mark, how was the second series compared to the first? Because I hear a lot that it's
I think
way
so.
less focused and it's
like
all over the place.
Prince of Nothing is very introspective. I say it like this: like Prince of Nothing reminds me of like Dune, a lot of like Dune, and Aspect reminds me of more like Tolkien, but it's still all very Baker. So it will just progressively get darker and darker and darker. And I think one of the main issues with the second series for some readers is it might just go to a place where you're not wanting to go. It's just that disturbing. And my dog is being ridiculous. It's nuts. The other thing being is, as much as like he starts that second series off like kind of streamlined as far as for him, he goes into the most dense of dense stuff, especially in the last 2 books, where it's like, if it's not the dark theme throwing you off, it could very well be the thick wooded forest of words that he's throwing. So
it's like stream of consciousness.
Yeah, and some people really cling to that, and others are like, what the fuck, man? This isn't like Prince of Nothing, you know? The first book of the second series threw me off. It's the one I kind of put on the bottom. So I was kind of worried at first, but then by the time I got to that second book, they just kept getting better and better for me. I have to admit, though, just because you enjoy Prince of Nothing is not a guarantee you're going to like Aspect, because he definitely, there's a change. There's like a tonal change in there. And yeah, it goes into no man's land. I applaud it. I'm like, dude, fucking, I've never seen anybody do anything like this. And it's fucked up. There shouldn't be anybody else doing stuff like that. I remember after reading like the second book in the second series, I literally wondered if the author, if Baker, was okay. I was like, is this guy all right? Like,
do a welfare check.
Yeah, somebody should call him.
After Beyond Redemption, I was like, I don't know if I want to ask Michael Fletcher if he's okay. I don't know about that guy.
All fluffy.
Oh man, I love Beyond Redemption. Was it like, so I got to Baker and Mike in the same year, and it really fucked me up in the best way, because I had been championing Broken Empire for years, like a decade. I was just like, oh, the Broken Empire. I was like a broken record with that shit. And then when I got into Beyond Redemption, I got like halfway through and I had to take a day break because I was like, I love this book. I was like, I need a break because I'm afraid that there's maybe I'm just like too in Wonderland here and I'm not really paying attention and I'm not able to critique it. Took a day break, came back to it and was like, I fucking love this. It was just amazing. It was so different than what I expected. I think I just expected a wild, zany, grimdark ride. And Beyond Redemption, I try to tell you all the time, it's very serious. It does have zany ass wild shit in it and twisted humor, sure. But there's also a very like epic, dark fantasy feeling to it that felt fucking serious and just awesome as all hell. And I was just talking about this in my discussion earlier today. The subject, Mike, that you tackled could have so easily just been kind of surface level or done for like flashy, cool, like check out my crazy people. You know what I mean? But you did your homework. It showed immensely. And it's why that world and that magic system still today are so, like it's the most thought-provoking magic system in like dark fantasy, grimdark or whatever that I've consumed. I still think about that shit all the time.
Cool. Thanks, man.
And Jolien just mentioned that, and you just mentioned Beyond Redemption in your two videos ago?
Yeah, I think so. In my the grim dark books that I've read. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's still one that I really enjoyed, especially that magic system, because it's so unique. And at the same time, that's probably the bleakest book that I've read. And it has just some content and trigger warnings that I find like dirt. I have a big problem with dirt. So I enjoyed it. And at the same time, I know this is like my limit.
It is very snotty. There is something, though, I will say that there's something that recently in my own writing, because I know like with the whole German thing, I know that, Mike, you've said that, you know, now knowing what you know now, maybe you wouldn't have made certain decisions. And I've definitely watched myself, like when I first started writing, it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's a really stupid idea, but whatever, we're going to do it because I just see it in my head like this. And then like months down the road, I'm like, running into certain issues and I'm like, this all kind of ties into your stupid idea. This is why you're fucking having these issues, because you wanted to do that stupid thing.
Yeah,
so
it's hard to tell. Sometimes that stupid idea is the magic,
right?
Is why it's different, is why it's gonna be a book where people are like, I haven't read this a million times already. And that, I mean, for me is like every book, at least to some degree. I mean, I want to entertain, but like I would like to hit something at least a little differently. So, you know, so the reader is like, oh, cool. This is like, here's a new spin on something. Right. And you can only get that by, you know, like fucking around and finding out. And sometimes it goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, you got to fuck with the boundaries, right? You're like, all right, like I'm going to stretch this piece of putty and just see how far we can get.
Words to live by. Em says, actually, now I think about it, I got done reading Empire of the Vampire because of Mark II.
That's a really cool book too. I'm actually reading rereading Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, and I already kind of caught like the familiar kind of vibes, obviously in Empire of the Vampire, because there's that interview happening. But yeah, I felt like I see like the influence even more obviously now reading Anne Rice's book. But Empire of the Vampire was amazing, and that was one that caught me off guard. David Ragg from the Articles of Faith is the one that he read an arc for it, and he was like, oh, it's really good. So I picked it up, and I was blown away. And that's another one was like, Christoph's style might be one that normally I would say, like on paper, I'd be like, I don't know. But it was one I just kind of gobbled up, man. I couldn't stop reading once I started that book. I'm like chomping at the bit for him to put out the next one.
Did you read that one, Nick?
Sorry, did you ask me?
Did you read that one?
No, I didn't. No. Who's the author?
It was a J. Christoph.
Yeah, Jay Kristoff.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't read it, but now I will.
Yeah, it's really good. Though I will say this, I did notice there is people that didn't like it, and one of the main things I saw in the criticism was that they found it too edgy. So like if you're not into like edgy fucking books, it might not be your
edgy
style. But because like the very, very beginning of that book has like a little introduction, and it grabbed me immediately. That's why I was like, oh, we're reading this. Like that just connected, like home run, let's go. While that did that to me, I literally went onto Facebook and watched how that people had the exact opposite. They're like, this was written by an angry teenager. You know, it's like, I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like, it sounds cool. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I obviously have a type, a style, a story, an aesthetic that I dig a lot. So of course it's it's right up my alley, where it might not be for yours. If you're not into super edgy fucking books or characters that are edgy and cursing all the time, and to me you can listen to the way I talk. Like, pretty sure you can tell I don't mind a little cursing in my books. But it's one of those things. I guess that's one thing I always kind of have to pump the brakes as a reviewer. Is like I always had to remember, just because I like 5-starred it doesn't mean that like that's everybody's opinion. Get ready for people to disagree with you on a fucking crazy level.
How do you feel about cursing in your books, Jolien?
I usually don't mind, but if they have like curse words that are very specific for that world, it either works or it doesn't. I know that this is something that Brandon Sanderson does, and I always find that it sounds a little bit silly, but I guess that when it's done right, I don't even notice it. But yeah, but with Brandon Sanderson, it's sometimes like somebody is cursing and it's storms, and I find that extremely silly, so it immediately pulls me out of the story. But if it's just normal cursing, I don't really mind.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah,
Cursing?
no, it's true. I absolutely agree with her. I read a series. What was it? The Robert Newcomb series, which is terrible, by the way. I'm sorry, I have to say it is. It's bad. But part of the reason why I didn't like it was just because, they made up curse words. It's like this one wizard kept saying bags, like BAGS. That was his like curse word. And every time he said it, he's like, oh, bags, whatever. And I'm just like, oh, my God, this is getting really, really annoying and like distracting. Stuff like that distracts me. Like, I'll key on something that distracts me in a book, and I will not be able to read like anymore, like without just seeing it everywhere. Like, there's this one book I read where the author just started every sentence where the character was speaking with the character's name. Like, didn't use pronouns like not even once. It was just this person's name. And I counted on one page. It was like, I think it was like 16 times or 18 times on one page. And it's like, this did this person did this person did this. And it just was just the character's name over and over and over. And I was like, I couldn't get past 20 pages. I was just like, throw in a pronoun every now and again. Like, it would be nice. And it was just so distracting. And little stuff like that bothers me. Just stupid stuff. But I just couldn't get past it. And I was like, I can't read this book anymore. Just dumb stuff.
Our friend Mahir is here from Fantasy Book Critic. Love collecting arcs, so I'm always happy to take them off of you, Nick.
That's my buddy. Thanks, Mahir.
He's the nicest guy. Mahir's like
he is the nicest guy.
Actually kind of makes us look bad.
He does.
He does.
You're terrible compared to him.
He does. Daniel says the copy of A Court of Broken Knives I got from Amazon is a retired library copy from Glasgow.
Weird.
I got a bunch of library books through Amazon, like through you buying them used, lots of them. A bunch of like my Broken Empire books. I want to say my Teresa Frohock Miserere book was a fucking library copy. A bunch.
And Jeremiah says the last scene in The Warrior Prophet is a doozy. Yes, it is.
yeah, it is. That, yeah, for sure. No
There's a
spoilers.
lot in those. Those last few pages are interesting. Trilla's here. I've noticed a trend with this grimdark movement where there are a lot of dark fantasy books have very low magic levels of magic slash the supernatural, which is fine, but I prefer crazy. Fletcher was what I needed.
I prefer crazy too. I like big magic. Yeah.
I love everything he's written, but Manifest Delusions especially is just the best. So I have to ask, Mike, since you're here, but what's the how's the third book coming along with you and Clayton?
We just passed the 80,000 word mark. My suspicion is it's going to be a bit of a chunky guy. It'll be out in 2023. Next year is going to be nuts. Last City of Sacrifice book, last Manifest Delusions book. Yes. Hopefully something interesting happens with this weird insect fantasy thing I did. Speaking of bad ideas and running with them. So we'll see what's going with that. It's currently being shopped. And there's a science fiction noir thing. I'm going to finish that too. I might have like 3 or 4 books out next year.
Wow.
It's going to be crazy.
You've been busy.
Yeah. Well, I realized I had like 3 half-written books, and instead of starting something new, I thought maybe I should finish those. And it's a lot easier to finish 3 or 4 books in a year when you already wrote half of all of them. So it's kind of like cheating.
Are you? How's your progress on finishing the series that you have unfinished, Jolien? I know you have a few, just a couple.
Well, I actually wanted to do another video of my ongoing series TBR, but it would probably be exactly the same as the one that I did 6 months ago. I have made 0 progress, but I am not allowed to start any new series until the end of the year. So I'm guessing that that's a good thing, and we will see from there. But it's difficult because usually, and I don't know if this is something that everybody experiences, but I like the first book most of all because I like getting to know the world and meeting the characters. So that's why I like reading a lot of first books, and then I don't continue the series, which is fine. But when you then get back to it after years, it's difficult to remember everything. So I just have to push myself to just finish the series.
Did you guys? Are you continuing with Stormlight, or what, you guys were reading Sanderson?
No. I think that I might have to do a video about why I DNF'd that series, because people are asking me, because I started to read along at the beginning of this year, and I was actually pretty convinced that I was going to like it, but it was a struggle, and those books are 1,000+ pages. I'm just not going to put myself through that.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand it. It's not that I don't like his writing style, because in the past I've liked a lot of Sanderson's books, but either my reading taste has changed or Stormlight specifically is not for me. But I'm just really not liking how he writes characters, and I can see how other people like that, but yeah, it's not working.
What about you, Nick? Do you have a lot of unfinished series?
Too many to count. Most of them are current though, so I'm just waiting for the next one to come out. But yeah, I mean, like, the City of Sacrifice or whatever. Fletcher's that one, the Ashen Moon, right? Is that the one you're finishing?
Yep.
I really love that one. Oh my god! And I've told him on Twitter that I think it's his best one, his best series. I mean, just personally, I just think it's great. I think the whole world building is amazing. The way the rings and stuff with how it's constructed, and just it's great. I mean, it's violent, it's magical, it's everything you'd want, and it's my favorite by him. So I'm really excited that one's finishing up, and I can't wait. So, Mike, when you get that done, just to me, because I would love to read it. It's
absolutely.
Just amazing.
Yeah, that's a series that is sometimes I feel like it's kind of a sleeper for as far as your stuff, Mike, because people will talk a lot about Manifest, they'll talk a lot about your Obsidian Path, and City of Sacrifice is fucking wicked awesome. The world building, like Nick is right on point. It's that world building you did in there is so cool, and I don't know if you ever updated the map, but.
No.
If you didn't, it doesn't matter. But this is the funniest thing: is right out the gate, you get hit with that really egregious map. It's just like it's shit. But
It's
the thing
awful.
is it all it does is it fucking displays like what's going the rings, and that's all you need. Because then you're also getting hit with the concept, and the concept with just that little bit of visual aid, the concept really sinks in, and you're like, damn, this is fucking dope. I love this idea for a world and for a story. It was very smart. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think the chapter title for the map, because it was its own little chapter, the title is literally a really shitty map.
I like the map. Is that wrong? I don't know. I thought it was cool.
I thought it did the job, and I wasn't able to do anything better because
I got the idea.
Artistically challenged.
Did you draw it yourself, or did you have someone get?
Oh yeah, I did it in like Paint or something on Microsoft. Like it's a couple of rings, and each one's a different color. And I think I labeled the walls badly, but like you can look at it, you'll get the point. But it's calling it a map is generous.
Do you check out the maps, Jolien, when you open a new book?
I don't. It's something that I forget, and when I'm reading, I don't really care about it that much, and that's probably why I never have a problem if people get from A to B too fast for it to be logical, because I don't know where everything is in a fantasy world.
What about you, Nick? Do you check out the map?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. I have kind of a love-hate relationship. I mean, I do like books that are kind of straightforward, where you don't have to sort of refer to a map all the time to find out where you are. But at the same time, if it's a really cool world, it's so nice to have that map and to refer to it. And there's certain books that it just helps you sort of like visualize things a little better. So yeah, I mean, I can go both ways. I mean, yeah, like I like books, like I said, that you could just read and don't have to worry about it. But maps are cool. I like them.
Yeah.
Mark, do you pay attention?
I used to not. I really used to not. I like the only really map that I always remembered was, from Tolkien. Like I remember like that was like the fantasy map in my head. I always remembered, but it never seemed to be like a mandatory thing for a story, It was only until I started booktubing and I mentioned something, and then someone was like, "Oh, I has to have a map," and I was like, "Huh." And then I was like, all of a sudden, it was like that infected my mind, and I was like, "Oh man, I gotta have a map too." Like, I will say, it's not necessary, but I think Nick hits on something good there, because if the map, it doesn't matter for me if it's there, but if I fall in love with your world, whether I want to know where I'm at or not, I just probably want to see a fucking map just because I love your world now, If it's an epic scope, you should have a map, because you're probably going to be going all over the where you're building these massive fucking world. It's going to help the reader to have a fucking map. But if you're just telling a straightforward story, like a quest or something like that, I mean, I don't see why you would have to have a fucking map. Like,
I think military fantasy it's I like having a map too, because just to see where everybody is.
Yeah.
Sort of
Or
like,
if you're gonna have like a long running series, even if it's like short books, but like the Elric books are great because then they got the maps, and it's like, well, it's nice because you're gonna go to all these different places, so it's kind of cool to see like keep tabs on where you've been in the world. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say like I would never condemn a book for not having a map, but I do like it. I do like it.
As a matter of fact, it's kind of refreshing when they don't. It's like, oh man, a break.
Yeah,
it's a nice little break.
You're like,
sweet. But then I have to have a map again.
Trail.
Then I have to have one again. But it's nice to break it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I look at everything an author includes in the book before the story starts, I see that as a crutch. Like if you put your map in and a list of characters and who they are and what houses they belong to and all that shit before the story starts, to me, and I can be wrong here, I'm totally good with that. To me, what you're doing is saying, I am too fucking lazy to actually put this into the story and feed it to you slowly. I'm just going to brain barf it at you right up front so that I can just forget about it and get on with it. Which is why I won't do that. Like the City of Sacrifice, that map, it's only 3 rings or 4 rings, whatever it is. You know, the Obsidian Path series, there's no map until the very end of the very last book. And then there are the world maps at the back. And that one, it's a discovery thing. He's got amnesia, right? And so I'm like, no, you don't get to fucking see the world. He doesn't know what the world is like. I think any extra shit like that, you put at the back of a book and you don't lean on it. Assume there's no map and tell your story in such a way that the reader doesn't need it. And Nick makes a good point with the military fantasy thing. I think that's a different kettle of fish when you're talking about moving armies and stuff. That's maybe trickier. I don't write that, so I don't really know.
There's actually people who that's all they do, right? Is build maps or draw maps.
Well, yeah, that's what they do. They say that I'm writing a book, and then they spend years world building and doing maps, and never write a book. Those are my favorite writers.
Dude, I drew the map for my world with a fucking crayon.
That's just it. I do maps for every book. Every map has a book, but it's like crayons, pencils, and coffee stains. And it's for me. It's not for the reader. The reader shouldn't need it, but I need it to make sure that like it all makes sense and the travel times work. But that's my job.
I also agree though. Like I think I'd rather have all that stuff in the back of the book. For me, like it's nice. Like if you want it, it's there, but it's not the first thing you're being hit with. I guess maybe not so much map. But like if you're gonna do like the cast and all that, like it's kind of nice to have all that, like a glossary, whatever, appendices and stuff like in the back. Put it in the back, and if you want to go refer to it. It is always funny though when all that stuff's in the back and you don't know, and you're reading and you're like, man, I wish there was a list of characters and stuff, you know. And then you finish the book and you're like, well. There it is.
Always check the back of the book. That's the moral of the story.
That's so true. Austin says, Nathan, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jolien.
I was going to say, that's one thing, though, too, with e-readers. You can't just, like, flip to the back, I don't think. I don't think you can easily access. I don't know. Maybe there's like way you could tab like the page. Maybe I don't know. There's probably hacks to those things I'm never going to figure out. But that's one of the main things. Like I want to like for Baker's stuff, especially the very last book, because of like he put a map in there just for the area, that final area you're going to, because of the whole thing's that battle. And if without that map, it's super fucking confusing. So it's like I had like literally because I didn't really want to mess up my books too much. So I like would only fold out the map and then I read like on the e-reader. But I remember reading the Silmarillion and I destroyed that book from going to the back like 1,000 times. Like Fingal, Hanga. Everybody's names were so similar and it was just crazy. Now I've actually reread that book and I'm like, man, it's crazy that I had struggled so much with this. But I mean, I do remember tearing into the back of that thing, fucking like every page I read. It was just like, I got to go to the back again.
I think there's a way to, I think it's almost like a chapter on Kindle, right? You can switch, you can go to the back. I think you can, but.
Yeah, it's just a pain in the butt. It really is.
Yeah. Austin says, Nathan, what got me interested in Fletcher and copped the free ebook of Obsidian. And Nathan says, oh, damn, that's dope as hell. Love to hear that. Fletcher has me working to sell his books in a basement, so I have no choice.
Work harder. I have expensive tastes.
Nick,
Yeah.
Oh
Come
man,
on,
how many
Nick.
people do you have in a basement, Mike?
Quite a few. It's a good sized basement. I've got the cages are mostly cleaned. That's Dirk's job.
That's where he is tonight.
Yeah. That's why he's not here.
Yeah.
Fucker.
And all of the people you have in basements are finding out your secrets tonight.
They do all my writing and editing. It's all good.
Daniel says, I ordered while Anna Smith's Spark was on with you, Steve. Oh, cool. Let me know how you like it when you get to it. That last book gave me a bit of a hangover. City of Sacrifice. Yeah, that last battle was pretty intense. Jeremiah says, sorry if this has been asked, but ignored if so. But does Michael do research when writing? Does he have an example? I feel like his research would be wildly interesting.
Yeah, I do a ton of research because it's important to me that little details are right. Not to say that I don't fuck up, because I do. So like the Manifest Delusion stuff, I wanted to base the magic system on insanity. However, modern insanity is a lot less cool than the way insanity was viewed during like the 20s and 30s. So it's actually largely based on an outdated view of mental illness, a lot of it. So it's sort of this weird blend of the two. The hell's it called? The Manual of Psychiatric MS. I can't remember. So read a bunch of psychiatric manuals trying to figure stuff out, research. I was always looking for the strangest delusions, but they all have to be real. Recently wrote a fantasy novel about insects, no human characters at all. Whole thing takes place in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant. So I had to research gas giants, insect biology, how they heal, how they breathe, how they hear, and like all this crap. And just like half the time it's a half an hour of research so I can have one sentence that's not stupid. But yeah, there's an absolute ton of research goes into every book.
Isaiah had a question. Sorry, but did Fletcher mention a Neurosco sequel?
Nope. No, it's not that there won't be one. It's that Clayton and I are both like so crazy busy with other projects. I would love to, and we have ideas. We've actually sketched out a rough idea for a book, and we did a ton of world building before we wrote Norilska. So the world is huge and fairly well fleshed out. We just need to live much longer than we probably will to actually write the books.
Isaiah also says the world needs it.
Yes, I need it too. Tied for my favorite book of 2021. Legacy of the Brightwash and Neuralska Groans were
Brightwash is
my
so
two
good.
favorite reads of that year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Austin has a question for Jolien. How goes the reading slump?
Well, I don't really know, actually, because at the end of September, I thought that I was doing fine, and I was making myself ready to film the wrap-up, and I read 2 books, and I thought, well, okay, apparently I'm still in the slump. And then now, just today, I thought that I was doing fine again, like, oh, I'm back into reading, I'm reading every day, and I saw that I finished 2 books, and we're already halfway through October, so it's definitely a lot less than what I used to do, but I'm already just glad that I'm listening to audiobooks again, which I couldn't do for months, and that I'm picking up a book almost every day. So even if it's just like 20 pages where it used to be 200, it's something. And I hope that I can slowly crawl out of that slump even more. But it's a process, yeah.
How did you get out of it? It was just time that you just took some time off?
Yeah, and I think I always go a little bit too hard into projects, and then I burn out pretty quickly. Like with booktube as well, it's a hobby, I love doing it, but in the end I was watching booktube 4 hours a day just because I wanted to support everyone, and in the end it almost felt like a compulsion that I had to do it, and it just wasn't fun anymore. So I had to take a step back and not watch any booktube. Like, just if I opened YouTube and I saw a booktube video, I was stressed out, so I had to take a huge step back.
We're glad you're feeling a bit better. Nick, do you have reading slumps?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean, it's just something that is going to happen. And I just usually I like she said, I usually just take a break, do something else, binge watch movies or something. And I mean, one time I think I took an entire I think it was 2 months where I didn't read at all, and I just it came back eventually. But yeah, I mean, it's just you just have to take a break. It's just like your mind is just sometimes can't process it all, and it's rather than it be a job or work, because I do this because I love it and it's fun, and I don't ever want it to be like something that's going to be stressful or that I don't want to do. So I mean, you need to take that time for yourself to get away from it for a while and do other stuff and play video games or whatever you have to do, and then eventually you just get recharged, and I just went right back.
What about you, Mark? Do you have reading slumps?
Yeah. Not definitely like when I used to read before I ever started booktube and stuff. I read books, but I was never like as avid reader as I am today. But mostly, I mean, that might be because of book slumps. Honestly, I didn't really know what a book slump was. I just would read, a couple books, and then I just kind of be like, I'm kind of over reading for a minute, and I might not pick a book up for a year, and then when I did, I'd read a couple more books or whatever, and it might happen again. Since I started it, part of the starting the channel was also kind of a way to keep myself in it, and really push my reading experience. And instead of falling off after reading 4 or 5 books, just to keep going. And I luckily found a lot of stuff. I managed to find just tons of shit that I had not heard of or that I had heard of that was very enjoyable. So my experience was good, and it just kind of kept me going. I do remember after finishing The Second Apocalypse by Baker, I kind of went into a slump for probably about 2 weeks, which was crazy because that was crazy for me because I was literally smashing books out in a couple days, and I was just not, it was like one after the other, I was like a machine at one point. And so to not be reading anything seemed like crazy. But that last book had kind of blasted me in the soul. So it was like, I couldn't really go into another fantasy world or anything, I was just like, I still got to kind of sit and think about this whole experience I had. I don't know. It was really crazy. It was like a slump, but maybe for a good reason. I really just needed to reflect on that crazy journey that became very personal to me. And then, but the thing is when I noticed when I started to try to get back on the horse, I was having a lot of trouble finding something I could get into. I'd read a page or two and I'd be like, dude, this ain't hitting. This is not I know some people would be like, oh, that's pretty quick to bail. But I'm like, that's how I know almost. So if I'm going to read the whole book, I can almost tell you within the first 5 pages, if I'm going to fly through it or not. What ended up happening is I turned to Ben Galley's second book in his Chasing Graves trilogy. I was so glad that I'd already read the Chasing Graves because the next book to me was that was a phenomenal book out of that trilogy. And it kept me engaged and interested, and boom, I was right back on track. I was just burning through books again. I'll say this though, I know this about myself is I can create my own reading slump with outside distractions. If I get into a video game, and I know we talked about this a little bit, Steve, this is why people are always like, oh, did you play this? And I'm like, no, I haven't, because if I do, I won't be around. My wife will be mad. Everything will be neglected. Fuck it. Life will cease to exist. And I'll just be me in that fucking game. I'm a horrible multitasker. I get tunnel vision, and I tend to throw all of myself into the one thing. I like to do that. I just like to put everything into the one deal. So I noticed when I start getting into other media, like video games or whatever, movies, it will take me away. That'll cause a reading slump. More so video games than movies, though. I mean, I've always watched shit tons of movies, so I'm kind of used to like bouncing in and out of those. TV shows and video games can really cause a slump for me because I might just get so sucked up into something else. It's hard for me to multitask, I guess. I can read like two books at the same time, but it's hard for me to like I said, I couldn't read a book and play a fucking video game. So yeah, I stay pretty clear of those until I feel like it's time, I guess. I'll play the fuck out of a video game and then I won't touch video games for a year or two, because it's like that's how bad I'm gonna play it when I do. But yeah, I mean, I also I understand that reading slumps are like a very serious thing, and like it can be really frustrating. And that's like one thing. Like I definitely try. Like people on my Discord are pretty good at like trying to motivate each other, or you know what I mean. If you are in that spot, like by all means, just speak up because we'll do our best to come together and try to figure out a plan. And ultimately, it might just be, hey man, to take a step back and relax and go do something else for a minute, because. Reading is awesome, but yeah, it should never be forced. And like these guys are saying, you don't want it to feel like a job. It's like, because I'm not getting paid.
Neither am I.
It's like, that's the shittiest job. Like, even in jail, they pay you 25 cents. I mean, fuck.
What about you, Mike? Do you have writing slumps?
Yeah, I used to. I've got better at pacing myself now, so not really writing slumps anymore. I get reading slumps, but I found for me it's getting out of genre kind of solves that, and mostly what I find myself going to is a history, just because it makes such great research material. There's always every history book you're going to find something where you're like, oh, I'm going to use that. And you put it in your bag of tricks for later. But writing, I'm pretty good at pacing myself now. I know when to just walk away, and if I need to take a week, take a week.
Jolene's note. I'll continue series. I felt like Baker was really good at providing a synopsis at the beginning of every sequel, wish more authors did that. And just really quickly, Mark, you have to take off.
Yeah, I got to get going. I totally appreciate you having me on, Steve. These things are so much fun. I just got so much going on. I have to tend to.
No, that's all good. Well, thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. It was awesome to talk with you guys. It's nice to meet you, Nick.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, right on.
Thanks again, Mark.
Follow me on Twitter.
See you, Dave.
I will.
Call you back.
Later. But on Jolene's note about continuing a series, I feel like Baker is really good at providing a synopsis at the beginning of every sequel, which wish more authors did that.
Yeah.
Kind of like a refresher.
I love it when that's at the beginning of a book.
I like it as a reader. I fucking hate it as a writer. Those suck to write.
You would.
That's true.
Go back to the book you just wrote, that 150,000 words, and condense it down to 3 pages of I'm like, just read the book again, then you can read book 2. I mean, because that's when I grew up, that's what you did, right? As a kid in the 80s, authors would put a book out every 2 or 3 years, and so you'd buy the first Game of Thrones book, and 3 years later the second one would come out, and you'd be like, I can't remember a fucking thing from the first book. So you'd reread the first book, and then you'd read book 2. 3 years later, book 3 comes out, you're like, oh Jesus. You'd reread book 1 and reread book 2, and then you'd read book 3. Kids, spoiled little shits.
You're unbelievable.
I know. Oh my God.
I love them. I think every author should do them. How you like that? Like,
Yeah. I did it once, and I hated it so much.
What book? Which book did you do it for?
The beginning of Ash and Bones, there's a recap of Smoke and Stone. Ugh.
Me here says, always find the fake cursing hilarious. I don't get why Brando Sando just can't type fuck or allow his characters to say fuck.
Yeah. And at the same time, I think that for Brandon Sanderson, it would also be weird if his character said fuck. So it's like he can't win in this one. Or either he just should not have that curse.
It's always an option. We want more. We want more sequels, Mike.
Yes.
No pressure.
It's got five or six books, and then we'll write that one.
Maps for immersive. World building sickness. Index. Yeah, they do help. I prefer them in the back of the book though, not the front, just so we can refer to them. But I like when authors give me extra info or maps when it becomes relevant to the story. Anonymous. Now there's an idea. Lock your editor and promoter in cages along with the audiobook narrator.
Save a fortune.
Do you do audiobooks, Nick, for reviews?
Occasionally, not as much. I mean, it's not that I don't like audiobooks. Please don't come after me. I just if I need to read something quickly, or I mainly use audiobooks to. If I'm on book 3 of a series, I might listen to the first 2 instead of read them because I feel like it's quicker that way, and it just gives me a refresher. So sometimes I'll use it that way, and I'll listen to previous books of a series while I'm driving to work because I have like an hour commute. So I don't hate audiobooks, but I prefer reading if I can. So
I found driving and listening to an audiobook really dangerous. I only did it the once, and it was one of Mark Lawrence's books. And I guess I'm a visual reader. So I start picturing the scene, right? So I'm driving to work, and I start picturing the scene. I'm in the book, and there's all the characters. This is all happening, and then the person in front of me decides to hit the brakes, and I'm like, "Holy fuck!"
No audiobooks for you.
No, not in the car.
Have you been listening to audiobooks, sir? Step out of the car. Well, sometimes I see the runtime on some of these audiobooks, and it's like 20 hours or 30 hours. It's like, would I read this faster if I just read it? I mean, would it take me 20 hours to read?
Yeah, but I don't know if everybody does this, but I speed up the audiobook because sometimes it's just incredibly slow. And then if you do it times 2, which does take a little bit of practice, but a 20-hour audiobook gets 10 hours, and that's doable, especially if you have a long commute.
Austin says, very nice. Been going through a bit of a slump of my own. COVID and anxiety, depression kicking my ass. Well, hope you're doing okay, Austin. If you need, reach out if you need some help to any of us. As he says, was probably a top 10 book for me this year, in a year where I read Second Apocalypse, Dresden, Curse of the Mistwraith, Kingdoms of Death, Lands Fit for Heroes, and Book of the New Sun, etc. Oh, and Dune Messiah. This has been a crazy stacked year for me.
That is crazy to be anywhere near a top 10 on that list.
It's quite the list.
That's the one. Thanks, Mahir. That's the psychiatric manual I was trying to remember.
Got it.
Can't remember if it was 4 or 5.
Next says, I read Brightwash and Evernight series around the same time. Saucy stuff. I'm not used to graphic romance and fantasy. Where's the awkward fumbling and dingy back alley? I have been noticing more romance in fantasy, just in general. Have you all noticed that too?
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
Yeah, I gravitate towards that stuff anyway, so I haven't really noticed it, but I pick it up. So,
Was it the series that you were reading, Kerschel's Dart?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It has quite a bit of graphic scenes. It's always fun when I have to explain what I'm reading to somebody when they're visiting, and I say like, well, yeah, it has a little bit of sex, and then my husband, he's right next to me, and he's like, she's reading porn. Like, really, read those scenes. It's pure porn. Always embarrassing me.
That makes for some fun dinner conversations.
Yeah.
Nathan says, I just opened up Empire of the Vampires preview on Google Books because of Mark, and it has a quote, "Lamb from Lamb of God" at the start. Guess I'm sold.
You know?
Nice. How's the music stuff going, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, the music's it's a hobby. It's for fun. I love doing it. I need a break from words every now and then, and it's like it's still creative, but I get to use a different part of my brain, so it's like vacations.
Nice. Do you provide like a playlist with your books and like a listening playlist while people read?
I don't. I mean, when people ask, I'll tell people what I was listening to when I wrote different books, because I tend to get fairly focused on one band for a book or a series, and that'll go into like crazy heavy rotation while I'm writing. But I've never actually done a playlist.
It's kind of cool when authors have a playlist that goes along with the book. I think it's kind of neat.
I just figure probably most people have better taste in music than I do.
Do you look for those lists, Nick, or listen to music while you're reading?
Oh man, to me, I can't really. I don't know. Listening to music is kind of sketchy. It's like I can listen to music if it doesn't have lyrics, if it's just like ambient type stuff or classical, but I'm one of those people that kind of needs silence when I'm reading. I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously my kids are always like kind of making noise and there's always kind of noise in the background, but as far as reading goes, I can't really like read to music. I was never a read to music kind of person. It was just that I have to focus on it. Otherwise my mind takes, I go to the music instead of what I'm reading.
What about you, Jolien? Do you listen to music when you read?
Yeah, no, I hate sound when I'm reading, up to the point that I think I have to buy like a noise canceling headphone, because if the dogs are barking or my husband is listening to something in the other room or he's gaming and he's cursing the entire time, it just gets me out of the story every time. So I need to buy something like that. But when I'm reading, sometimes it does get me into the mood for a certain song. So then I have to stop reading and listen to that song, and then I can continue. But both at the same time, it's too much.
Nice. Austin says, "Yeah, I've been going hardcore on Sanderson, and I have been giving it a bit of a break, even though I've enjoyed him and his writing quite a bit." And Sanderson's writing lectures are truly invaluable too. I haven't seen those, but I hear they're useful.
Yeah, I do appreciate that about him, that he gives a lot back to the community, it seems. I'm not an author, so I don't really know if it's very helpful, but at least he tries.
Nathan says, "Yeah, I prefer to reread the whole series to get fully into it. I did that for Obsidian Path most recently. That'll make Michael happy."
Yep, totally happy.
Anonymous, "Yeah, I agree. It's very dangerous to do it with your own audiobook. Then it's like, wait, he messed up." Thank you guys. Books and BookTube have been carrying me for this past year. Thank you for always being so kind to me, of course, and everyone. Happy to help him in some small way. So thanks for coming by, Austin. Like I said, reach out if you need someone to talk to. Jeremiah, does Steve consider Baker's love scenes as romance? No. Quite the opposite. Yeah, sex scenes in audiobooks are awkward for sure. The was it the scene in which one was the the first law book? That's a pretty hilarious scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, romance is becoming much more prevalent. Our friend Daniel's here, just did the Warrior Prophet with him. Late, but at least I have something to catch up on later. Mike, have you had one of those crazy rotations for Gojira during any of the books you wrote?
Yeah, Gojira, that was actually I think that was Norilska Groans for me. Was I had 3 or 4 Gojira albums in fairly heavy rotation for that one.
Saw them live a couple months ago. They're really good live.
A crazy good band.
Really good live. I was impressed. And Daniel, I was just thinking the same thing. Daniel says Russian Circles is good reading music if you don't like vocals while reading, but I do like metal. Yeah, it's really good and with no vocals, but really great music. So
Cool.
yeah,
I'll check it out.
Isaiah says listening to music while reading is terrible for me. It just throws me off. Might not help that I listen to so much instrumental music for fun, so it's just not an option for passive listening. Just tuning in. Awesome background, Fletch God.
Yeah, just it's the canvas poster of it. I haven't actually put it up yet. I had it sitting on the leaning against the office floor over there. I was like, oh crap, I'll just throw this up in the background. It's very subtle sort of marketing.
Very subtle. And Nathan saw them live in May too. So what are you reading now, Nick? What's on your table? On your plate?
What am I reading now? I'm reading Davis Ashura's new book, which is really good. What else? The new book by JDL Roselle I'm reading. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a really good author. Self-published. And Dec Matthews' new one is also like on my list. So a lot of self-pub right now. Yeah. And waiting for Mike's new book. I'm just kidding.
No pressure.
No pressure, Mike.
Yeah. I'm working. The problem is I'm reading two at the same time. I'm just kind of fucking up my pacing, but 2023, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah. What about you, Jolien? What are you reading now?
I'm listening to the Rainwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb. I'm up to the last book right now. And, well, I've always been a defender of that series because everybody says that it's bad compared to everything else in the realm of the Elderlings. And, well, the last book is kind of stretching it for me. It's a quartet. It is the worst sub-series in the realm of the Elderlings. And I think that if it was a trilogy, it's still a good book, but it's not as good as everything else. And we are with different characters, and some of the storylines are very compelling and others are a little bit iffy. So that's the one that I'm listening to. And then I just started this one, which was a very anticipated release for me. It's historical fantasy, Russian inspired. But I went and looked at some reviews at Goodreads, and I don't know because they're not that positive. But a lot of people are pointing out, like, she talks about Vladimir, and then she calls him or nicknames him Vlad. And in Russian, that's a very big mistake because you would never nickname somebody who calls Vladimir Vlad. That's something that I wouldn't notice. So I don't want to be insensitive to that problem, but I also don't think that it will diminish my enjoyment. So I'm still hopeful.
Fingers crossed. What are you working on, Mike? What's the next thing we can expect? When can we be on the lookout?
I'm not sure which book I'm going to finish up first. My suspicion is The Enemy of Both Sides, which is the Last City of Sacrifice book. I think that one's going to be finished first. That one will probably get released first. And then, it's The Enemy of Both Sides. And then A War to End All will be the last Manifest Illusions book. That'll be out later in the year as well. And then other news I can't talk about because nothing's happening yet.
Well, excited to hear about it when you're able to talk about it.
Yep.
But I want to thank all of you for coming by to hang out. It's been a blast as always. The time always flies, so I lose track of time. Nick, where's the best place people can find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter. Just Nick Borrelli. Look me up. I have a really weird handle. It's Nick RVWS. And you can also find me on my blog, Out of This World SFF.
And go check it out. And Mike, where can people find you?
Twitter, I think I'm at Fletcher MR or something like that. I don't actually know. I'm on Facebook. I have a website, michaelrfletcher.com, the usual kind of stuff. I am around.
And you are, see if I can find, Fletcher MR. That is correct.
Oh, sweet. I got it right.
Can confirm. And Jolien, where's the best place for people to find you?
So on my BookTube channel, I do have a couple of links to Instagram and Twitter, but I'm never there. So if you really want to talk to me, it's best if you join my Discord. It's a very small one. So I know that some people get overwhelmed by Discord, but I maybe have like 20 members who are active. So it's very easy to keep track of everything. And that's where you can really talk to me if you would want to.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for spending your Friday evening with me. Really appreciate it. I know that you're all busy, have lots of stuff to do, books to write, books to read, other stuff to do. So I really appreciate your time. And thanks to everyone in the chat for coming by. It's always great to have the interaction, the back and forth. And hope you all have a great weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks
Thank
for
you, Steve.
having us on.
Bye-bye.